I've never had anything against anybody, throughout the years, but, you hear things and talk and whatever, and you hear, "Oh, those guys from over there," and, "F those guys," or whatever. It's just talk, right? And for me, one day, I was just kinda like, "Why is everybody like this?"
All right, welcome back to the Grindcast. So today we're joined by Alex Ross Hill, owner of High Tech Coatings in St. George. Since 1995, Alex has been turning plain concrete into polished, eye-catching floors that are built to last. His family-run business is all about quality, personality, and treating clients like part of the crew. With a sharp eye for detail and a great sense of humor, Alex proves that even concrete can shine. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Grindcast, Alex Ross Hill.
Hey.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about this business and kind of where you're at now and what you do.
So we specialize in pretty much anything resinous, concrete coatings, anything that makes it decorative. So resinous coatings, polishing, staining, sealing, overlays, you name it. If it makes it pretty, we do it. We just don't pour it.
You make it look pretty.
That we do.
I see it's amazing how some of that concrete can look. I've walked on some of it. I'm like, how is this even possible? Because it looks so good.
Some of it's pretty cool. When you start getting into like the artistic side of things, which is what I really love doing, like custom logos, stuff like that, then it gets really fun. Obviously doing what we do is beautiful anyway, but when we get to really start playing with, the artistic side, it gets better.
Logos. Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. Because I don't think I've heard of logos being in there. It sounds awesome.
Man, we've done all kinds of custom logos. I think one of the coolest ones we did, it was actually in an aircraft hangar, and we did all of their flooring, and the guys, they actually wanted their company logo, which had an airplane in it and a green circle going around it. Actually, I think it's on our website, but they wanted the wingspan to be 32 feet wide, and they don't make a stencil big enough for that. So they came to me and said, "Hey, can you make this happen?" And I'm like, "I need to get back to you in like a week. I'm not sure how I'm gonna make it work," So I came up with this idea. I was like, all right, what we'll get a 60-foot boom. We'll put it at the end of the hangar, and then we'll extend it all the way out with a projector duct taped to a 10-foot plank on the end.
Oh my
And
God.
project the logo on the floor, and we'll draw it out, and then we'll freehand the whole thing.
Wow.
It turned out incredible when it was done, but
Maybe Micah could find that on the website. Is it just on the main part of the website, or is it on some
I
pictures
think it
there?
is in the main part. I'm pretty sure if you scroll down, you should be able to see it. But
So how long did that take to, while he's looking at that, how long did that take to build?
I think it probably took us about 2 weeks, start to finish, to make it
Okay, so
happen.
here we got it right here. We
Right
got it
there.
inside. That is it. So go ahead and open that up, and then that is awesome. Okay, that looks really cool.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, so
There's been some fun ones.
look how shiny it is. This is what I was talking about earlier, and I was like, these things are just so shiny. It's amazing.
It's crazy.
Okay, so what's the craziest request you have, or is that it? Is that it?
Ugh, craziest request. I'm gonna have to think about that and get back to you on that one. We've had some crazy requests. So, I think probably one of the most challenging you just barely saw was the one where it was the black and the red checkerboard.
Oh.
And that was just a matter of logistics, because they wanted it to be polished concrete, not stained concrete, but it had to be black and it had to be red and it had to be checkers on a 45
Wow.
with a custom logo. I think that project took us about a month and a half to
Wow.
get done, because it was so intricate. And then trying to make it functional plus look the way they wanted with the system that they required. It was
Wow.
it was a lot.
Yeah. Geez, that's crazy.
It did turn
Wow.
out cool though.
Yeah, it is. That looks amazing. And that's I mean, all these are here in St. George.
Yeah, most of them. We're licensed in 14 states, and we work all over the place through all of them. But I would say 90% of the work is here in St. George, Utah, or surrounding areas.
Okay.
So I know like your parents started this company, right?
They did.
So like tell us a little bit about like being a little kid and like growing up into the business and then ending up like you take it over, right? You took it over.
Yeah. So been doing them since like that big. I think like first proof was me in some red welly boots, and had a roller in my hand. There's a photo of that somewhere. I think I was like 4 or 5 years old, and
That's awesome.
it's probably hindering more than helping at the time, but been in it the whole life. So, you know, it's been ongoing, but definitely something that being raised in like that, you've seen the changes through the industry, the different chemicals, resins, you know, the way the industry has progressed and grown, and being able to be a part of that as it grows definitely gives you some insight to it for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's crazy. So, like, tell us a little bit about what were some of the challenges that, like, you saw your parents go through as a kid, like, just kind of witnessing the entrepreneurial journey?
man, that's a story. So, um, well, I guess, starting from the beginning, it would have been we were actually in Vegas, and, just business the way it was, you know, sometimes you crash and burn, and, that's kinda what happened down there with, a different company down in Vegas, this over 30 years ago, and my dad actually moved up here, lived in a tent at Gunlock Lake for
Wow.
6 months
Wow.
while, he was developing and inventing our acrylic overlay system that actually got us started and, you know, founded High Tech Coatings in the first place.
Wow.
Then, from there, moved into a trailer up in Diamond Valley while my dad and mom were building our house and growing up through that. And obviously took quite a while when you're building it yourself, right? And
Mhm.
then to where we are now. So, I mean, it's been a journey for sure. I'm from tents to this.
Yeah, but on one hand, like you saw the true sacrifice that it took in order to build this foundation that created something that's been around for so long.
For sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah, seen it top to bottom.
So I know, so one of the fun parts about Alex is, so when I opened the bakery, you were the one that did my floors, and they were kind of a pain in the ass. 'Cause
They were.
it was a it was a Quiznos before, and it was a mess. They had these, like, it was what, green and, like, puke orange, and they were tiles, so they had to,
Yep.
like, take up the tiles, and then the floor was so uneven underneath, and,
And all the patches
oh my
everywhere.
gosh. And so I personally witnessed that because I was like, oh, I probably screwed that up, but, um, so it was crazy, like, with the, the sander and grinder and, like, dust everywhere, and I would go in and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, guys, like, what's taking so long?" But it was the trip. Just I didn't realize, like, how much work it was.
Yours was, there was a lot of extra.
And then I think my favorite part was, like, do you remember, like, when you came in at the end and you're like, "I found these gold flakes."
Yep.
And you're like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." So,
That's the fun creative side of me coming out. Oh, yeah, let's do something different.
yeah, no, I loved it, and
Like an artistic there.
Yep.
I love the artist, and then do you remember 4 days after I opened?
I remember when you opened, we came in for the grand opening, me and all the guys did, but
Yeah, so Alex loves to skydive and
oh.
base jump,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so we talked about it throughout the grinding journey. And so I'm like, "Hey, next time you go, let me know." I've never done it and I've always wanted to. And so 4 days after I open, and I'm like a mess because I'm like trying to get anyways, so he comes in, he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Working." I had one employee there, and he's like, "You want to go skydiving?" And I was like, "Uh, Kyle, you got this?" And he's like, "Yeah, just go." And I was like, "Cool." So we went to Mesquite. I
We
had my
did.
first skydiving experience. It was awesome. So it
That
was,
was fun.
yeah, it's quite a journey. So anyway.
That's awesome. The thrill seeker.
Oh my gosh.
I like it.
Yeah.
So you were when you were young, you were kind of working a little bit in the business the whole time.
Oh, yeah,
Just
definitely.
learning a lot
I and even,
different roles. Or,
yeah, 10, 12 years old, summer
wow.
breaks, working with dad and, you know, going off doing travel, you know, away from homework and, yeah, then, moving into it full time and then kinda taking over. So, it's definitely I've been in it my entire life.
So when you were younger, well, first off, when did you move into it full time? How old were you when you moved into it full time?
Uh, I would say 17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
So before that, were you like convinced like this is my thing, this is what I'm gonna do, or are you like, I don't know, dude, this is my parents' thing, and I want to go find
Uh,
something else?
growing up, you kind of like have your own goals and dreams, and I definitely tried a couple different things on my own. Tried to open up an audio shop at one point, and it kind of turned into more of a man cave. You're just kids hanging out with cool cars and awesome sound systems, right?
How old were you during that time?
Uh, 16 probably.
Okay, okay.
So, yeah, I don't know, it was fun, but it turned into a man cave more than a business, and, just growing up, right? But definitely turned around and, realized that I had something amazing in front of me that I knew inside and out, and that's when I decided, well, this is what we should do. So, here we are.
Okay, awesome. And so 17 when you go full time into it. That's amazing.
Yeah, I, definitely dropped out to do that, but
Okay.
I don't know, it was just one of those things for me. I was too ambitious, I guess. I was sitting there feeling like I was wasting my time, and I was like, "I already know what I'm doing, so I don't need to deal with this stuff." So I just
Yeah.
went and did my own thing.
So like you felt like school's holding me back from what it is that I want to.
100%. I'm not saying that's right for everybody by all means.
Black
But
college dropout. I didn't get that part. There's not the other one, but I get it.
it definitely it definitely allowed me to take on the trade though and get more involved in it, learn more faster, and then I guess kind of jump me to a higher level than what I would have been at my current age, if I would have gone all the way through, finished, and then started, right? I think my only downside to not going through school is I wish I would have done more business
Mhm.
because that's something that I've learned the hard way throughout the years. I mean, if you asked me, 3, 4 years ago, what a CRM is, what your return on investment is, your conversion rate for labor to or from lead to, actually approved projects, I couldn't even tell you what those things were.
Yeah.
Now I'm a numbers geek.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have done more of that for sure.
Yeah.
It would have benefited.
Right, right, that makes sense. No, and I kind of learned the same way just through trial and error. And I remember going through this, I went through this business class, and I was like, well, maybe I wanted to pick up something and see whatever, right? So there was one course where he was talking, and I don't remember what it was that he was talking about, but he was teaching these kids, right, this thing, and I'm looking at that, and I'm like, it took me a freaking decade to learn what he's telling you guys right here.
Yep. I agree.
And this is just trial and error. And I think just the more that you can, like that education is so important. Yes, you can learn it through trial and error, or you can learn it kind of the other way,
Right.
like shortcut it a little bit. That's part of the reason why we have the grindcast is because there's people like you will come on and be like, well, here's what I learned and here's how I do it. It's like,
Definitely.
you know,
Go
save your
take the
10
class,
years.
get it done, and don't take 10 years to learn it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can still be running your business while you're learning those other things, and it's gonna work
Exactly.
like that.
There'd definitely be a lot less setbacks if you knew that up front, right?
Right. But then I don't know, like when I was there and there's these younger kids learning this, right? They don't really have a way of relating to what they're learning. You know what I mean? Whereas
Yeah.
like now you do, you've experienced so business and ups and downs and the trial and error and all of that. So when you're presented with something like that, you're like, I can relate. Like I get that. And
Definitely.
they're kind of not quite there. But I think if they're doing something like alongside, maybe a side hustle or something while they're going through it, then it's like it's so much more relatable and it sticks.
Yeah, then they've got like a real world scenario to actually apply it to rather than just formulas. You know what I mean? That they're hoping that they're going to apply one day and not really understanding where it's actually going to come into play. If they're doing something while they're learning it at the same time, they've got a real world scenario to be able to apply.
Yeah.
So
So you're 17 and you go full time, and then your dad still owns it.
yeah.
Is that right? Okay. And
Yeah.
so you're like an employee, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go in full time. He's running everything, and I'm just gonna go and just kind of just get better at the skill.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what happened, and, worked in it up until probably about 5 or 6 years ago, I would say, when, dad was in Costa Rica and just said, "Hey, I'm, not coming home. I bought a restaurant and bar on the beach."
It was like that, right?
"This is it. No, I
Sink
oh,
or
perfect.
sink or swim.
Now I've got somewhere to go vacation, right?"
Yeah.
So, yeah,
That's great.
it was definitely a lot of him guiding, to show me the ropes throughout the years, though. It's definitely, he was traveling for 4 to 6 months out of the year for a long time prior to that. So I would be kind of left to run things on my own, and then he'd get back and clean up my mess. So, um, but yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago, he ended up down there, bought a restaurant and bar, and since then it's just been me and my brother running it full time. And we went from just me and him when we met you to where we are today, which, like I said before, licensed in 14 states, everything from small residential all the way up to large industrial contracts, even U.S. Air Force contracts.
Wow.
Definitely expanded in size since then.
So I know we talked about this a little bit, but when you were doing mine, you were kind of feeling burnout, right?
Um,
And just like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this.
That's when it was
Yeah.
just you and your brother.
yeah,
Okay.
not necessarily burnout in the sense of I don't want to be involved in the industry anymore, but burnout in the sense of I don't want to scale to that level again, because we were big, at one point, and had a lot of employees, a lot of crews, and a lot of work going on. And, after the economy took crash in '07, '08, it was a lot to recover from that and try to rebuild everything. And then once we'd kind of gotten everything stabilized again, it was burnout on the idea of scaling and growing again. Um, Obviously, that didn't stick.
Yeah.
Too ambitious, I guess.
Yeah. You know what? Sometimes it just, like we were talking about, like it just takes a little fire and just reignite that,
It does.
get up and go.
I think, though, that things like that need to happen throughout our progression, because obviously there was a way and a method that we were doing things at that point when we were large before, and it worked and it was great. But then when the economy crashed, it really had made us reset. And now we've reapproached the same idea of scaling and growing, but with a different idea on how to do it, a different method. And it's actually allowed us to springboard to an even bigger level than we were at in '07 or '08 before that crash. So I think those things are required for like learning curves throughout business. You've got to get kicked to, and you know what I'm saying.
Kick where?
Use your imagination there.
But yeah, you've got to get, taken down a notch, and then have to sit back and reanalyze, reassess what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, to be able to move forward and progress, not only for yourself personally, but within your industry. And I think that translates to every business, no matter what industry you're in. It just, if you're so hyper focused on one thing, you're never going to be able to learn and adapt until you can look at the bigger picture and have that taken away from you.
So what size were you before, and then what size did it go down to after you had that drop?
Gosh, I want to say we probably had 20, 25 employees. Okay, roughly. It was a long time ago, but
Yeah, sure.
I want to say 20, 25 employees. Nowadays we approach it differently.
Sure.
We have contractors now, not so much employees, but they're definitely fed work by us on a regular basis. We train them, we certify them in our systems, and they contract work through us that we put out there for them. And with our labor force, we've got access to about 50 guys spread across the 14 states at any point in time.
Awesome.
And then, when we do take on a larger scale project, say like our last U.S. Air Force contract, it was 120,000 square foot. And we had to get it taken care of in 20 days. So
Wow.
we bring in the entire workforce to one area, get it knocked out in the timeline required, and then everybody just goes back to what they're doing. So that was something that we definitely learned the hard way when we were trying to scale to the larger scale projects and the more industrial side of things. Is when you require a workforce of 50 people to go and knock this out in under a month, when you come home, you don't walk out of a project on that level straight into another one. So now you're responsible for 50 people, families, right? To put a roof over their head, put food on their table. And on a residential scale, that's not feasible. You're not going to do that, at least in this industry. So you're burning all the profits that you made off of the large scale project, hoping that you're going to get the next one before the profits burn out, and you're just back at square one again.
Mhm.
So the way we approached that was with the contractors that way, and symbiotic relationships with other like companies that do exactly what we do. That way, when we have those large scale projects, we can bring in our workforce, we can bring in other contractors or other businesses that do what we do, and they will work under us to knock those out. And then when we leave those projects, we're not responsible for their livelihoods in between. So,
It's a valuable lesson learned during that time.
yep,
frame.
learn the hard way.
But you went down to what, just like 4 guys when you were at kind of bare minimum?
For quite a while, it was actually just me and my brother, and
That's after 2008.
yeah,
Okay.
and then we would bring on one person, you know, just a helper every now and then. That's
Yeah.
when we were doing your floors over there for you. And then we kind of scaled again a little bit. I think we got up to 8 or 9 guys, and that imploded again. And, you know, it was once again learning curves, right? Something I was learning at that point was, you know, if I could bring in X amount of dollars profit on, you know, just one crew, me and my brother plus one guy, bringing on a secondary crew, I was actually losing money because of the additional expense of having to pay for the vehicles, the trailers, the, you know, equipment that goes into that. It was actually generating less money than what it was with just me and my brother and one guy. So then we realized it took 3 crews to make the profit margin that 2 crews should make. And then you would step back again and then step forward again every time you added another crew to it. So it was a totally different approach again that, you know, after we got up to about 10 guys, it fell apart again. So there's been a lot of build up, setback to get to where we've figured out it actually works for us. So, and I think every industry is going to be different on how that translates to different businesses, right?
Yeah, you're helping me feel not so bad.
And
Yeah.
well, it's hard to learn is that experiencing that because you have to try it. You have to take a risk.
For sure.
And then sometimes you figure out it works and sometimes it doesn't. You're like, okay, we got to start back over.
Yeah.
We got to figure out like what's the challenge that we have. It's that whenever the job goes away, we still have these people that are on payroll and they've got to keep getting paid. Well, how do we
Yeah.
solve that? Okay, let's move to 1099 contractors.
For
Love
sure.
That's
Yep.
great.
And it just changed the entire way we operate, you know. It's really benefited on how we've been able to scale to that level. So it's been amazing.
Mhm. So it sounds like you had I mean, quite a few years where it was just kind of the two of you going through, and then that's probably when you guys met and you're like, okay, do we scale again? But you still have that thought in your head of like, I remember 2007 and 2008 and what happened then.
Yep.
And so I don't want to live like that ever again, right? That's stressful.
It was a lot. It was for sure. It definitely was in the back of my head, you know, while we were working on yours that I don't want to deal with that mess again. You know, we're happy now. We're making money. We go home. We don't work crazy hours and we're all good. And then the fire gets reignited and you're like, all right, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
What reignited the fire for you?
Ambition. I think my fatal flaw is I don't know the word no.
Okay. So you're like, I can't just keep this as it is. I've got to try again. I got to experience and grow.
Definitely. Yep. This time though, with a different mindset and a different approach to everything. So it was really good. This time around, we've actually scaled to where we have, and now we've actually started another company here in town called On the Grind as well, and it's kind of sister company to High Tech.
Fits well with the show.
Yeah, right. The grind, or yeah, hustle grind, and on the grind. But yeah, on the grind, and that's more of our rental company because we have so much equipment to handle the large scale projects now
Oh, that makes
that we don't want it to gather dust while it's, you know, in between projects. So we opened up the rental company and now we're offering even to our competitors and other companies that do what we do, large scale equipment that, you know, even if they're small scale at the time, they can't get into or can't justify that type of equipment. They've got access to it. So they can take on those larger projects just by renting it through us. So that's been a really cool business that we've gotten into as well outside of just high tech and doing the installs. So
It's still gathering dust. Either way.
One way is making money. Though.
that's true. Well, when it comes back to the shop, it gets cleaned. So
No, that's good, and that's you found another way of pivoting, and like we've got all this equipment sitting there.
for sure.
It's the same thing like what we're doing with this studio. We use this studio once a week. And so we've had a lot of interest of people saying, well, hey, you've got all that equipment in there. Can I come and use it? And
Yeah.
then we're like, well, yeah, we might as well do that. And while it's sitting there collecting dust.
Definitely.
And that's one of the great things about owning the business. You can always look for other ways of generating revenue,
For sure.
right?
Yeah, we don't grind our floors, or do we?
You have way too much fun with the word grind. We have T-shirt ideas. Don't worry, they might not be for kids, but we have T-shirt ideas that are going to be coming out to help certain.
Let me know when the pre-orders go live.
Just don't put me in charge of that.
So when it was just the two of you, and you're like, okay, we're going to do this thing. What was your first step?
Dad's in
Sit back.
Costa Rica.
It
You're
was-
like,
Was
oh,
that, was it around that time when Dad's like, hey, you're on your own. Sink or swim.
I think the first step was, and it was, yeah, probably around that time. But I think the first step was really to sit back and analyze what's worked, what hasn't throughout the years, and every attempt at running up and scaling again and figuring out, okay, this was a problem. How do we solve that? This was a problem. How do we solve that? And then trying to build a new plan that allowed it to scale, at least with the information that we had at hand, right? And try to fix everything. And I'm not saying we haven't learned a lot along the way through this process as well, but
Nonstop. Right?
yep, if you're not learning, you're not growing.
You're right.
So true.
So, but yeah, that was definitely step one in it. And then I think one of the bigger pivotable sorry things was definitely taking a different approach to business. I think, and it's unfortunate, but I think there are so many companies that unfortunately they see competition as competition or enemies rather than just thinking, hey, there's another company that does what I do, collaborate with them and, join forces. And that was definitely a big pivoting point for us, was to reach out to all of the other companies and just, hey, I'm Alex. I'd like to meet you, and let's sit down, let's go to lunch, let's talk about where you're at, where I'm at. And, if any one of you guys ever needs a grinder or your grinder breaks down on you mid-project, give me a call. I'll drop it off for you. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
That is
definitely
awesome.
opened the door to symbiotic relationships for sure, which has been amazing for us. We have a lot of contractors, companies that they have relationships with large scale projects. One of them being a U-Haul facility that we just barely finished up, that they don't have the manpower, the equipment, or the team to be able to do it, but they're being asked to give the contractor a price to do the job. So they'll bring it to our table and say, hey, are you interested in running this project? We'll run it under you. And then it gives them the ability to take on that project that they would have had to have let go before. So
Very cool.
it's been really cool.
These other competitors, when you called them and said, hey, let's go to lunch, was it a little weird at first? Were they like, what do you want?
Only a couple of them.
Okay.
Honestly, it was actually really surprising. It definitely, when you make the initial phone call, it's kind of like, yeah, what do you want? But then it's like, hey, we'd love to go to lunch with you. Let's go sit down and talk. And then it's all really cool from there. So it's been really good response. So
It's probably helpful because they know, you guys know exactly what each other are going through. And there's not a lot of other people that do.
for sure.
Like the same thing. So at least you kind of have that, right?
Yep.
I'm really struggling over here because you grind and we grind, and I'm just have all these grinding thoughts.
We're gonna edit that out.
Hey.
We're editing that out.
He takes my fun away.
Now I forgot where I was going. So then you guys kind of work to collaborate on certain things and certain projects.
Yeah,
And it's kind of they're in the same boat. Like if they get some big job, they're like, oh wait a minute,
yeah,
we need some help too.
most definitely. Yeah, it's been really cool from that angle because they're able to be able to take on larger scale projects that they wouldn't be able to without the equipment, without the workforce that we have access to. And then flip side for us is we take on the large scale projects and we don't constantly have that entire workforce. So having those people, and those relationships, we're able to call them and be able to take those projects on. So
That's awesome.
it's definitely symbiotic relationships rather than competition. And again, that was one of the biggest pivoting points in the way we approached things this time. So it was really cool.
That's really smart.
What prompted that type of change for you to say, okay, let's instead of looking at our competition as competition, let's look at them as like allies, and we're going to work together on certain things.
I think really I was tired. I don't know. I've never had anything against anybody, throughout the years, but you hear things and talk and whatever, and you hear, oh, those guys from over there and, F those guys or whatever. It's just talk, right? And for me, one day I was just kind of like, why is everybody like this? Like, there's no need to be that way. Like outside of work, we'd probably be great friends. So yeah, why don't we just sit down and talk and figure out where we can all help each other here? So I think that was the biggest thing for me was just, I don't know. I like relationships, not, conflicts. So and there's always a way for two people or two companies to get from A to B in a conversation, as long as it makes sense for both people. So that's the way we approached it.
That's great.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's something completely different than what I think most would go for. Because I think you're right in that a lot of people see their competition as enemies.
Yeah.
And I know one in particular that in a different industry that his competition, it's like he wants to kill them. That's kind of where it is. And he's done
See,
really
that's the mindset
he's
that
done
I'm
really
saying.
well. He's I think he become a billionaire now. But anyways, but it's like that's kind of a hard mindset for me because I like to be friendly with everybody. Right, there are times I give too much. But I kind of like that your approach to it in that, hey, we can all be friends and maybe we can help each other. And maybe we're still gonna have jobs here and there that we compete on, and that's just kind of how it is. But at the end of the day, we can still be friends and we work for other bigger jobs. Then we can work together on those types of things.
Yep, definitely.
I love that.
So one of my favorite parts about you is your extracurricular activities, right? So I think that it sets you apart and I think that it's relatable because for me at least, like I translate that I love to do crazy stuff as like conquering that fear. And as an entrepreneur, there's so much fear that it really is entangled, right? And so tell us a little bit about the fun adventures and like how do they relate to business for you?
Uh, I think it clears my head, actually. I think that's probably an oxymoron. The idea of jumping off of a cliff is something that calms your mind and clears your head, right? But
Hey, there's a special kind of crazy.
um, no, I think for me, the reason it really does clear my mind is just because once you've done something like that, it puts the world back into perspective. It's like after you've landed, it's like, you know what else could be worse than that? Right? I mean, nothing can get me after this. So I think it's one of those things where it's like you're getting overwhelmed in business, whether it be because of the amount of work you're trying to figure out how to finance it or how to manage it, scale the company, all the nuances that go on with the company after you go jump out of a plane or off of a cliff or whatever it may be, right? Or other sports or things that put your mind to that level. Once you're done with that experience, all of a sudden the entire world comes back into perspective for you again, and you're just like, it's not that
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah. And for me, like doing, sport bikes, like you're so focused on what's in front of you
Yeah,
that like everything else is just gone.
goes quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an extreme type of focus.
Yeah.
So do you feel that fear of like when you're doing those extreme things? Like,
Yeah.
I might
We wouldn't
die.
be there if you didn't, right? You've got to push the emotions to the edge for a minute.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Do you have like, what's a favorite story?
Um, my most recent one is probably my favorite,
Bucket
but
list, yeah.
yeah, just because it was top 3 bucket list item for me, but that was an incredible experience. Always wanted to go see Angel Falls anyway, and then, finally got to do it, but I got to base jump off of it as well, so that was really cool.
And where's that at?
In Venezuela. So, we, went through Colombia first. Can't fly straight to Venezuela through the US. So, went to Venezuela or, Colombia first. I met some friends from, Costa Rica. I actually hung out there for a couple of days and then made my way down into Venezuela. We, got in these canoes, went 74 kilometers upstream and made it to the bottom of Angel Falls and got to camp out there at base camp. And then, helicopter took us up to the top
That's
and got to
awesome.
go jump at the Angel Falls, this world's largest uninterrupted waterfall. It was magical.
Yeah.
Did you have any thoughts on the way down?
Yeah. No, actually, the coolest part about it, I've never seen this before, but if you watch the video, there's actually a perfect circle rainbow because the waterfall is to your side and the mist is coming across in the wind.
Oh, wow.
And the rainbow is a perfect circle. It wasn't just the fisheye lens on the camera. I could see that. And as I was tracking, I was like, I'm gonna track through a rainbow. I was like, this is magical.
How high is that?
Don't quote me on this. I want to say it was 2,300 foot. I'd have to double check though. So 1,800, 2,300
Somewhere
foot.
around there. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
It was really cool though.
That's crazy. Yeah, such a cool experience.
It was magical.
So I always get people always ask me like, aren't you afraid to die?
Yeah. I think we all are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of have like this phrase whenever somebody asks me that, I'm just like, I would rather live doing the things I love than fear living. Right.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
for me, it's just like, what's life about if you can't live the way you want?
100%.
So yeah, it's worth it. I try not to die though.
Well, that's the goal, right? We do it to live,
Calculated
not
risk.
to die.
Yes, exactly. Awesome.
So what's next for the business? And you're in 14 states now. You're collaborating with other people out in those states. What's next? Where are you going?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure yet.
Okay. One step at a time.
Yeah, it's definitely just keep going the way we are, and things just seem to present themselves at, the right time, I guess. So it's definitely, project to project, and if it requires another scale up, then that's what we'll do. I think the keeping high tech coatings operating and successful the way it is, I'm happy where it is. So if it doesn't
Nice.
need to scale again for any time in the foreseeable future, we'll let it just generate.
Yeah.
As far as on the grind goes with the other company, that I'm really excited because it's an infant company right now and it's got all of the scaling potential to go through. So I'm seeing the carrot again, right? I'm like, okay, how are we going to scale this one? How are we going to do this one? So it's definitely between the two, it's been a really fun experience. But I think next move is going to be to get on the grind in multiple locations and, different states and figure out the logistics of how that's going to work. And that's only going to feed high tech even further. Because high tech will be able to utilize that equipment from the sister company in all of the states that it's in. And
Exactly. Equipment. Love that.
yeah. So, I mean, between both companies, if this one's scaling or this one, they're both scaling symbiotically, because they go so hand in hand with each other for sure. So, and if On the Grind is in other states, it's going to be a great introduction and door open to, other companies and symbiotic relationships with those companies in those other states as well. So that's going to open the door for more with high tech. As far as what's on the docket for high tech right now, we definitely just went through trademark. So
fun.
logos, trades, everything. It's all trademarked now,
Oh,
and we're going to be starting a licensing deal with other companies in other states so they can actually license through high tech. They'll be able to buy materials at our purchasing power through us, so it'll immediately give them access to high quality materials at a price point that they couldn't do right out the gate.
That's amazing.
And we have the trainings going on. We are the only third-party company licensed to do trainings for our manufacturer outside of them. So we have our own systems, and we'll be doing the trainings for the people that are going to be licensing and kind of letting them start their own babies as well. So
so great.
That's awesome because I love your view on it. Like you're okay helping other people who would typically be viewed as competitors.
for sure.
But also you get to participate in the upside.
Yep.
They're more successful, right?
It
You get to
creates
either
a symbiotic
relationship. You get to either collaborate on bigger projects or as they grow and they get to use the equipment.
For sure.
And that's great.
Symbiotic relationships.
Yeah, no, I love that. I just haven't seen it before like that. So that's amazing. It's new. It's new. That's a good thing.
Reinventing the wheel, or at least trying.
If somebody's watching this and they're thinking either they're in a business and they're stuck or they're thinking about starting a business, what advice could you give them that would help them through that?
Take a business class.
I like it.
First things first, just take a business class. Don't learn the hard way. Take that while you're starting whatever you're doing. Save yourself 10 years of headache.
Yeah.
From there, I would say get involved in every, group you can, Chamber of Commerce, for our local areas, AGEC, things like that, be present, make sure that you're known, try to be present within the community. Giving back to the community is great as well. Outside of that, I would say definitely be a numbers geek.
That took a decade, right?
It did. Up until about 3 years ago, I mean, I didn't even know what CRMs were, how they worked. It definitely pivoted the way things operated for us. Automations nowadays, today's world with AI and automations is incredible. I mean, it probably saves me, I'd say 10 to 15 hours a week having CRM softwares that the entire team is present, relevant to all of the information. Being able to, have your numbers involved, being able to catalog and, take videos, photos of all projects and even communication with your clientele, being present with them always being known what's going on, up to date, when the crews are arriving, what they look like in their photos, text message reminders, then internal notes between our crews, being able to take video walkthroughs of what's happened every day, because I can't be on every single job anymore. I just can't. As much as I try to be on as many as I can, I'm not going to make it to every single job every day anymore. So having that video walkthrough allows me to be able to look at things and make sure everything is being done the way I expect it to be done as per our systems and what we want to back and present ourselves as. So
Love that.
CRM software's technology is not cheap, but it is worth every penny throughout the business. And if you have that from day one, it's going to help.
And you implemented that a few years ago?
We did. We're actually, so that is a cool thing, and that's another side company deal that we're doing right now, but we have the technology company, which we're actually developing our own CRM software system because there is not one tailored to our industry specifically. Everybody just kind of takes, like, we're using Jobber, and it's the most fitted to compact your business into and make it operate the way you need it to. So we're actually developing our own CRM and own integrations into that as well that we'll be able to license out with the trademark. And it's just another niche that needs to be filled for our industry specifically. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And this is why you have over 155 star reviews.
that's it.
No, that's great. Yes, there's a lot of businesses that are like yours, and they don't implement that stuff, right? It's like it's really really old school, and if they learn that, it can change the business so much, and the customer experience. By systems reminders, hey, somebody's coming. Here's the PR, and I like that. Here's what they look like.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And then everything else on the back end with the automations. I mean, that speaks my language. I love that stuff.
Right. Just told you I'm number.
You probably saw it when you probably saw a little bit of it when we scheduled you for this,
Yep.
right? You're like, oh,
I got it.
see,
Like, I know what that is.
and it's because of the time, right?
Yeah.
It's have to automate as much as you possibly can because of the time saver. Anything that you're doing manually, it takes so much more time to do that. And there's so much cool software and cool tech out there that can just be life changing for people. And they've got to go through and they've got to learn it. They've got to figure it out. And
Most
you gotta pay for it,
definitely.
'cause it's not cheap, but it is cheaper than having like 2 full-time employees just trying to manage that. Way cheaper than that.
Yeah, it is. Well, and then if you think about it, well, I don't need to pay for that. I'm the owner. I'll just handle it. I know how it's going to run in the back end. You've got to account for what your time is worth as well. And if your time is spent 10 hours a day doing nothing but data entry and trying to keep up with making phone calls to allow homeowners to know that, hey, my guys are going to be there in an hour. And, oh, hey, call at the end of the day. Here's the update on what happened for the day. All of a sudden your entire day is gone and you're not where you're supposed to be. You're
Right.
not growing the business. You're not expanding. You're not, trying to figure out what your next move is. So your time is more valuable than that, or not necessarily more valuable, but you need to be the owner, not the employee.
Right.
The operator. Yeah.
The one that's so interesting to me in a lot of service-based businesses is like the owner will get busy and just can't answer the phone, right? And they lose so much work from that. And it's like there's software that's so simple that just like automatically texts them back. Yep. Hey, sorry, I'm on another job. What can I help? Whatever, right? And just that. And it doesn't cost hardly anything, but if people can just implement something as simple as that.
So we did 2 things. 100%. We did 2 things to mitigate that. So one thing I realized a couple years ago is exactly what you just said. Here's the deal. If you just moved to St. George, you need a garage floor done. You're going to go on Google and you're going to say garage floor coatings. You're going to look at the first top 3 that have the best reviews. You're going to call each one of them in order until the first one answers. If you didn't answer the phone, 99% of the time, you don't have the job, period. So we implemented 2 different things that fixed that. One, another great local company, DigiVoice, VoIP phone systems, created a phone tree system. And that way people can get into the phone tree system. If they already know they're trying to get a hold of the installer that now, thanks to the CRM, they know the name of, and figure out when they're coming or update them that they've got to leave or they're not going to be there. They can just choose that person's name from the phone tree system and avoid talking to me, the relay phone call to them, the relay phone call back to the homeowner.
Yeah.
It allows people to get to where they need to go. But there is also an option on there that if nobody can get to the phone right now, you can press 1 if you're looking for a quote. And either 1, it'll forward you to our sales manager, or 2, it'll text you a link to a system that we've got, which is an online automated bid tool system. That way, 1, if you need a price right this second, here's the link, put in your info real quick. There's a pretty accurate price on what your floor is going to cost. We didn't even have to answer the phone to get you that information.
Love that.
So now we're always answering the phone first time. Second side to that is it will actually forward them over to the sales manager for Brian Carell if they don't want to deal with the tech, and they can talk to him directly and he can schedule. And that also integrates into the CRM as well. If somebody chooses the option that they want to quote, our CRM's already notified us that we have a lead. So the second we get a chance, we know we've got to talk to these people. So once again, technology, it's pricey, but it's worth it.
Yeah. How did you get introduced to that stuff?
So Brady owns DigiVoice and I actually grew up with him. And he talked to me about a phone tree system throughout the years. And one day I'm like, how do I get a phone tree system? Why am I looking this up on Google? I know this guy. So I called him and it was like 30 minutes later, boom, we're set up and we're off to the races. That was really cool. The automated bid tool system, that was actually probably the best 30-second sales pitch I allowed somebody to give me in my life. So, as business owners, right? You get probably 10 to 15 calls a day. Hey, can we sell you this? Hey, we've got this. It gets old, honestly. Right. So this guy, he starts talking and I'm like, look, man, you caught me at a good time because I'm driving. I'm like, I'm gonna give you 30 seconds. So
I was generous.
he pitches it, and I was like, all right, that actually sounds incredible. Now, what's it cost? And he's like, well, to be totally honest, we don't know your industry. We have this operating for other industries. What we're asking from you is that you become a guinea pig for R&D. We'll charge you nothing, but you're going to help us design this for your industry as well. And once we have this designed, we're going to sell it, to other companies, but you'll get it for free. I
Wow.
went,
That's
all right,
great.
done.
Yeah.
And, honestly, seeing how it's operated now, and how much income and, business it's generated for us, I probably would have paid $500 a month for that product. So, but crystal ball. Right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have the opportunity that I had, I probably never would have tried it. So
Yeah.
it was just luck, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's all those little things that can make such a big difference. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It does. So yeah, definitely. Thankfully, I've had the right things put in front of me at the right times and the right way. But if I could tell anybody anything, just give it a chance. I know it sucks paying what you got to pay for all of the integrations and all of the softwares, but it makes it worth it.
Oh yeah, and the client experience is so much better.
It does. It makes it incredible. Clientele is they're stoked that they know exactly who's coming, what times they're coming, photos of the people that are coming, being kept up to date all the time. People want that, they want to be kept up to date on what's going on with the project. They don't want to have to call you at the end of the day looking at their project going, well, I think something got done today, but I'm not sure. Right.
Right.
So, being able to keep people up to date, it's incredible.
And the thing is, almost all of your competitors won't do it, which is great, right?
There's definitely a couple that have,
Yeah.
and they're doing really well for themselves.
Yeah.
So, but
Most won't.
yeah,
It's even like stuff like this, like you're coming on video. Most won't.
right.
You've got to be willing to take a chance on a few things and get a little
Sure.
outside of your comfort zone. Right.
So how's your dad feel about it now?
He's probably tired of me calling him for advice all the time. No, we talk regularly, but he's really excited for us. He's proud that we've done what we've done with it and been able to springboard it to what we have. Honestly though, if he hadn't have laid the groundwork the way he did in the first place, then we wouldn't have had that platform to be able to build on top of. So it's been something that he built, we were raised in, and now allowed us to take it to a whole nother level. So it's been really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So where can people find you?
So hightechcoatings.com.
Okay.
That's website, Instagram.
That's the website
Facebook,
right there.
right there.
Okay.
And then, hey, there's the get a quote button at the top too. If you want a quote right now without talking to somebody.
That is awesome. And so they just put in kind of the parameters of the garage, like what the size is of the garage and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it walks them through the entire process, start to finish. What kind of concrete do you have? Does it have a coating on it? All the variables that would go into pricing.
Yeah, I like that. You have a few different options that are right there. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
And this was the software that the 30-second sell.
Yep. It was.
Okay, I like that. And then you're on Instagram as well.
Yep. And then best phone number to get a hold of us, 435-773-8843.
Okay.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for coming on. I had such a great
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks for having me, Jeff.
Appreciate it.